guys, it's Jasper, and today I thought it would be fun to read you chapter 2 of this book that's not upside down and backwards, The Princess and the Goblin. After I posted last week's video, Charles Fetters, hope I'm saying your name right, suggested that I post another chapter, and while I can't post daily videos, I thought, why not post chapter 2? Because I love this book. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like me to continue reading chapters week to week, let me know down below. Now, pairing with chapter 2 of The Princess and the Goblin, I will be drinking this great big mug of, any guesses what's in it? Something good. Comment down below. As always, pour yourself something lovely to drink, relax, enjoy, and cheers. Chapter 2. The Princess Loses Herself. I have said the Princess Irene was about 8 years old when my story begins. And this is how it begins. One very wet day when the mountain was covered with mist, which constantly gathering itself into the raindrops and pouring down on the roofs of the great old house, whence it fell in a fringe of water from the eaves all around about it. The princess could not, of course, go out. She got very tired, so tired that even her toys could no longer amuse her. You would wonder, at that, if I had time to describe to you one half of the toys she had. But then you wouldn't have the toys themselves, and that makes all the difference. You can't get tired of things before you have it. It was a picture, though, worth seeing. The princess sitting in the nursery with the sky ceiling over her head, at a great table covered with her toys. If the artist would like to draw this, I should advise him not to meddle with the toys. I'm afraid of attempting to describe them, and I think he had better not try to draw them. He had better not. He can do 1,000 things I can't, but I don't think he could draw those toys. No man could better make the princess herself than he could, though leaning with her back bowed into the back of a chair, her head hanging down and her hands in the lap, very miserable, as she would say herself, not even knowing what she would like, except to go out and get very wet, catch a particularly nice cold, and have to go to bed and take gruel. The next moment, after you see her sitting there, the nurses goes out of the room. Even that is a change, and the princess wakes up a little, looks about her. Then she tumbles off the chair and runs out of the door. Not the same door the nurse went out of, but one that opened at the foot of a curious old stair of worm-eaten oak, which looked as if no one had ever set foot upon it. She had once before been up 6 steps, and that was sufficient reason, in such a day, for trying to find out what was at the top of it. Up she ran, up, such a long way it seemed to her, till she came to the top of the 3rd flight. There she found the landing was the end of a long passage. Into this she ran. It was full of doors on each side. There were so many that she did not care to open any, but ran on to the end, where she turned into another passage, also full of doors. When she had turned twice more and still saw doors, and only doors, about her, she began to become frightened. It was so silent. And all those doors must hide rooms with nobody in them. That was dreadful. Also the rain made a great trampling noise on the roof. She turned and started at full speed, her little footsteps echoing through the sounds of the rain, back for the stairs and her safe nursery. So she thought. But she had lost herself long ago. It doesn't follow that she was lost, though, because she had lost herself. She ran for some distance, turned several times, and then began to be afraid. Very soon she was sure that she had lost the way back. Rooms everywhere and no stair. Her little heart beat as fast as her little feet ran, and a lump of tears was growing in her throat. But she was too eager, and perhaps too frightened, to cry for some time. At last, her hope failed her. Nothing but passages and doors everywhere. She threw herself on the floor and began to wail and cry. She did not cry long, however, for she was as brave as she could be expected of a princess of her age. After a good cry, she got up and brushed the dust from her frock. Oh, what old dust it was! Then she wiped her eyes with her hands, for princesses don't always have their handkerchiefs in their pockets, any more than some other little girls I know of. Next, like a true princess, she resolved on going wisely to work to find her way back. She would walk through the passages and look in every direction for the stairs. This she did, but without success. She went over the same ground again and again without knowing it, for the passages and doors were all alike. At last, in a corner, through a half-open door, she did see a stair. But alas, it went the wrong way. Instead of going down, it went up. Frightened as she was, however, she could not help wishing to see where yet further the stair could lead. It was very narrow and so steep that she went up like a four-legged creature on her hands and feet. Now there's a few simple points I'd like to talk about on this chapter. And the first thing is the humor and rationale of the narrator. What I like is that his narrator says things like about the princess's toys, where he says she had so many toys and I could describe them, but that really wouldn't help you to understand the fact that she's bored of them, because if I describe all these toys she has, unless you're in the exact same predicament, you're not going to feel the boredom. You're going to go, oh my goodness, that sounds so exciting. So I'm not even going to bother to describe them. And in truth, the illustrator shouldn't even bother drawing it. In fact, don't draw this, illustrator. I love how he breaks through and talks to the audience and talks to the illustrator and is like, don't even try. I couldn't do it. And for sure there's lots of things that you, the illustrator, can do that I can't do, but this is one of the things that neither of us should try to do. So let's just get off and not worry about that so much. And the other bit is when the princess cries, he has the line about her handkerchief, that she didn't have one. Now, of course, George MacDonald is writing this story, and so he could have easily written a handkerchief into her pocket. But instead, he chooses to go into great detail to say, she cried and cried and cried and couldn't use a hanky because she had forgotten her hanky. Because isn't that what most children do? They forget their hankies. Now, of course, most children today don't have hankies because we don't use them anymore. But in a time where hankies were used, children were forgetting them right and left. And so, of course, Princess Irene is just like every other kid who's going to forget her hanky. But the main thing I'd like to talk about with this story, and one of the things that I love and is illustrated in this chapter, is that, in a way, it is fear which drives the adventurer forward. Now, what I mean by this is that when Princess Irene gets up and is like, I need to just do something, I'm gonna adventure up, see where those stairs lead. At first it is her boredom, which turns into curiosity. But then she gets lost and she gets overwhelmed. She then has her little breaking point and she sits on the floor and cries, as I probably would have also done, and then decides to pick herself up and, find her way back home. But when she does this, she finds a set of stairs which go up. Now she knows for a fact this isn't the way to go back to the nursery, back to home, back to where she knows. But she can't help but go up those stairs for curiosity. But it wasn't curiosity which had brought her to that place. It was actually her fear. And had she been being pushed by fear in the way that we allow fear to control us, and you go, you know what, no, I'm scared, I'm going to turn back, she would have turned away from the steps. She would have gone, no, I don't want to get lost again, I don't want to experience fear again, I want to turn back, But instead, knowing the fear that she could fall back into, she decides to go up those stairs. When we run toward the thing that makes us afraid, we grow and we stretch. But when we retreat from fear, when we let fear bring us to the ground and make us cry and not try another set of steps, then fear is winning out. But a good adventurer will let fear do its work in the way that you use fear, right? You go, yes, it makes me a little afraid to keep stepping forward, but that's what I came here to do. For the princess to turn around and try to go back home, to choose not to go up more steps, would be to allow fear to control her rather than propel her. Fear only drives us forward when we run toward it, when we go in the direction of the thing that makes us afraid. And so in this chapter, I love that line, which is, frightened as she was, she couldn't help but wish to see further where the steps would lead. As always, I hope whatever you've been drinking has been good, that the conversation and story were a fair match. Cheers and cheers. That's awkward, isn't it? I just want to dance. I don't know.